Hey, how's it going? It's Carl, aka Carl Drum Tech. I'm here right now in San Diego doing a little hike, and today I want to talk to you about switching from one instrument to the other, going from snare to quad to bass to cymbals. That's it.
That's it?
That's it? It's the intro.
What the hell? Alright, man, let's go. Do the rest on potato chip.
Yeah.
So she has to record you every time you do?
No, normally I have a tripod.
Good energy, Carl, good energy.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
There you go.
Very clear work.
So when most people think about switching instruments from one instrument to the other, most people think, especially in high school, and I definitely subscribe to this when I was teaching in high school, when I was in high school, and especially in the old days, when you first started learning how to play drums and you join the drum line, you think it's like a progression, right? Like maybe you're not that skilled, so you might play cymbals. And then as you get better, you might go ahead and progress to bass. And then next step is quads. And then the next step is snare. Now, when I first started going to high school, I definitely thought that. I mean, when I first started playing, I definitely started out with cymbals at first, and then I quote unquote progressed to bass, and then I progressed to quads. And I thought, this is my junior year, I was playing quads, and I thought the logical step is to move up to snare. Now, I was thinking like, okay, so I just gotta get good, and then like I can play snare, and then like I've reached the pinnacle of drumline promotion, as you could say. But really when it comes down to it is that, it's not really like progression, because every instrument is different, every instrument is important, and every instrument has something where you build upon it and you can get better at it. One of my first quad teachers, his name is Vern Johnson. He's an old school Blue Devil tenor drummer, legendary in the activity. If you watched Blast and you saw Blast, he was the quad player for that group, and he was one of my first quad teachers. And what he told me when he found out that I was thinking about switching to snare, he said, stay on quads. And I thought, well, if it's coming from the legendary Vern Johnson, I gotta listen to it and I gotta stay on quads. And basically what he was trying to tell me is like, get good at quads. This is where you're gonna find your niche. This is where you're gonna really excel, is to just focus on one instrument and get good at it. And needless to say, I definitely heeded that advice, and I played quads for the rest of my career, and I definitely consider myself as a quad player right now. And I never played snare. Maybe I might have played the odd parade on snare, something like that, but for the most part, I am a quad player. I identify myself as a quad player, and tenor drums is my thing, and I can thank my legendary quad teacher, Vern Johnson, for that. Now, you just got to think that, it's not really a progression of one instrument to the other. Most people think like, that's like a mountain, right? Just like I'm climbing this trail right now. You go from cymbal to bass to snare to quads to snare. But that's, especially in these days, it's not really like that anymore, because think of it as like they're all on a flat line, and it's all like the beginning of a trail or beginning of a mountain, and it's not really a mountain in itself. But really what you're looking at is once you start and you pick an instrument and you focus on that, you can go and take that instrument to higher levels as you get better and better at it. And it really does not matter what instrument you play. So when it really comes down to it, there is no hierarchy in drumline. Let me say it again, there's no hierarchy in drumline. So you think that like if you're playing an instrument, like let's say you're playing bass and then you play quads, and then all of a sudden you think, okay, if I go to cymbals, I'm going down, like as if you had climbed all this way, like in this hike right now, and then only to go back down and climb it again. Well, look at it this way. It's really more like if you were to diverge to another path in the trail and then go up a different way. It's just as challenging. There are different challenges with it, but you're not going back down. What's a famous example of somebody who switched instruments and you would think like, oh, they're going down? Well, Wei Yuan Pan, who is my friend, and who famously went from the snare line to playing in the front ensemble. And I'm sure most people thought that you're going down when you play the front ensemble. I mean, especially in high school, there's a lot of times where most people want to play battery, and then they go back down to, and then like let's say they're not that experienced, they can't make battery, they get dumped into pit, as they would say, or front ensemble. And this definitely happens a lot in drumline for sure. I mean, obviously, look at Wei. he definitely said that playing snare and having experience in snare helped him out tremendously playing front ensemble. It's definitely different if you were to play front ensemble and having no experience whatsoever. It's definitely a different kind of climb. But if you have experience playing snare and learning rhythms and having a good understanding of time and really getting your hands moving, it's really going to help you when you play front ensemble. And like you said, you look at somebody like Wei Yuan Pan, who's so awesome at what he does, who's so respectable, and you don't think that when he switches to front ensemble that he's going down or he's downgrading or that he is being demoted. Not at all. It's definitely just a different path, and there are definitely ways you can just excel in whatever instrument that you choose. What's another good example? I have a friend named Eric Vega who marched cymbals in Vanguard. When you think about the Vanguard cymbal line, are you going to think that they're lower than anybody else? Absolutely not. They kick it up a higher level in terms of the cymbal skill set that they accomplish. I mean, you definitely look up to them. They work extremely hard, and they're super buff, they're super ripped, and the things that they can do with the cymbals is just a sight to behold. And that is what you want to strive for. Whatever instrument you take up, there is so many levels that you can take that up. And if you choose to switch instruments, again, it's not a hierarchy. Every single instrument has its own challenges, and you can definitely take each instrument at a different level. I mean, even take an example like, I have a friend named Pete Sappinen who can take a shaker and play triple diddle off a shaker. Now, you could think like in high school, well, here's a shaker, you're not that experienced, play the shaker, it's super easy, right? But like I said, just like the example with Pete Sappinen who can play triple diddle on, like a shaker, where you can go, there is another level that you can take even just a shaker. I'm sure if you take a triangle, there are higher levels, you can take that as well. So don't look at it as a like a hierarchy, or you just advance or you improve. That is not the case at all. Now, going back to my friend Eric, the thing about him is that he played cymbals for Vanguard, but then he played snare for RCC. Now, you would think, okay, well, he's downgrading himself when he goes to Vanguard, but then he's upgrading himself when he goes to RCC. But when you think about it, it's just really what it comes down to is that, he wanted to play one instrument for one ensemble and another instrument for a different ensemble. And again, it really doesn't matter what instrument you play. Every instrument is important. Every instrument has a part to play. So no matter what part that you get in your ensemble, remember that it's important that without you, it wouldn't complete the entire ensemble. Can you imagine an ensemble without cymbals? Obviously, it's gonna be very dry. Can you imagine an ensemble without bass drums? Obviously, it's gonna be there's gonna be no heart, there's gonna be no pulse, there's gonna be nothing holding down the entire ensemble. Can you imagine, an ensemble without quads, where it's just like, you don't have the multitude of voices that are available when you have a tenor line or snare line that kind of leads everything in terms of, leading the rhythmical aspects of the show. What about the front ensemble, where if you don't have the melodic aspect of it, it can be very dry because, you don't have parts that you can sing. It's all just drums, it's all non-melodic. And what about the other auxiliary instruments that really make up the full sound that you get when you have an ensemble? So like I said, every single instrument is important. Everybody has a part to play, just like in a basketball team where if you have, the 12th man who doesn't play that much, they have a part to play too, because they help the rest of the team get ready for practice. And it's super important to have that time where there's a lot of people that are available to have practice games and get better. And then you have winning teams that where you have players that don't play that much, but the players that don't play that much, they are also very important. Now, in the event that you want to make the change to a different instrument, just like I did when I was in high school, when I switched from bass drumming to quad drumming, I would give these two key pieces of advice. The first one is to make sure that you practice the instrument that you want to get to, not to the detriment of the instrument that you're at right now. So whatever section you're in, let's say you're in the bass drum line, you don't want to sacrifice, the section getting good because you're working too much on, getting good at quad drumming or snare drumming or whatever section you want to switch to. The idea is you want to make sure that you are excelling at the current instrument that you're at. That is the key if you want to make the switch, because obviously if you get really good at your instrument, it's going to translate no matter what instrument you switch to, you're going to need those skills, and it's going to be to your benefits. You want to excel at those before you switch. And just like, at work, if you want to get a promotion, if you want to do a different role, you want to make sure you excel at your current role and your current position. And that is how people notice you in order to get to the next level. They say, oh, John is doing really good at his position right now. We can consider him for the next position because he is excelling so much at his current position right now. So that is my number one key advice. And the second advice I would give is to, like, for example, if you're a bass drummer just like me, what I did when I wanted to switch to quads is I seeked out somebody who already plays quads and I made them work with me and teach me stuff. That is how I got good at quad drumming while I was playing bass drums, is that I got that help. I got that instruction from somebody in the line who is the same age, who is maybe a little bit older than me, who's been playing quads, and I got them to teach me cadences, I got them to teach me exercises, learn the arounds, and that is how I was able to step it up to the next level. And even then, once I started playing quads, I took advice from people who have been playing quads, and they taught me so much, and I use a lot of lessons that they taught me even to this day. And like I said, I've always identified myself as a quad player ever since I made the switch to quads. And whatever it is that you want to do, stay at your current instrument and excel and find different ways to to level up and get better at it, or make the switch. It's going to help you if you excel at the current instrument you're at right now. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. It was a little bit different because I was doing the hike. So in essence, you were doing the hike with me, and it was really unique. As you can tell, as I was going through the hike and going uphill and trying to speak at the camera with a high energy that I normally do, you can see I was kind of like running out of breath at times. But like I said, it was a little bit different, but hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully you got something out of it. And if you've been watching the video, thank you so much if you were watching. And as always, if you liked it, please thumb it up. Please share if you think somebody else would get something out of it, and subscribe. Remember that, just keep in mind that subscribing and liking the stuff and commenting, it is my oxygen. It is how the channel is fueled and how I'm able to do more and more of this kind of stuff. So if you've been watching, thank you so much. And until next time, take care.